दत्ता, इतने जल्दी आके क्या कर रहा है?
लॉगिन हो गया बस, लॉगिन करके छोड़ दिया।
ओए राजदीप, क्या कर रहा है?
पढ़ रहा हूँ, पढ़ रहा हूँ।
तू पूरा पागल कर रहा है, खाली पढ़। ऐसे नहीं होता।
अबे
इतना भी
स्टोरी पढ़ रहा हूँ यार, स्टोरी पढ़ रहा हूँ।
क्या स्टोरी पढ़ रहा है?
एक अरेंज मैरिज के ऊपर एक स्टोरी है, उसे पढ़ रहा हूँ।
यही सब करो, पढ़ने का सर पढ़ना चाहिए। अब तुमको पढ़ना चाहिए पाइथन कि सर क्या पढ़ाएंगे पाइथन में।
आज शायद उप्स पढ़ाएंगे सर, लगता है।
उप्स, ये उप्स पढ़ के तो मेरा उप्स हो जाएगा दिमाग का। सर तो नहीं आया ना, अभी तक नहीं आया है। ये संबित क्या मैसेज करता है, खाली रुक देखते हैं।
हेलो स्टूडेंट।
हेलो चिंचिन।
अरे रास्ते सब कुछ रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है, पता है? हम लोग बैठ के बकवास किए हैं इसमें।
या
ठीक है, कुछ मत बोलो अभी।
Okay, so today we'll start with this is the module 3 that we are going to cover. We'll have object oriented programming, which is being covered in this module. We'll discuss about the abstract data types, classes and objects, creating class and object, using a class, methods, overriding the methods, inheritance, different types of inheritance, encapsulation and information hiding, and along with that, exception handling using try, except and final. So this is the content of module 3. So most of them are being covered with the object oriented concept, and some classes will be also for exception handling. So today's discussion is on object oriented programming using Python. Yes, obviously these slides, some of the slides I have prepared and few slides I have taken from the internet itself. So we'll go for defining the classes. You know already what is a class is. Class is the collection of similar kinds of objects, right? So if I say there are different kinds of objects, different objects are there, they are having the similar properties, then the combinedly they will say as a one class. So if a class exists, then from the class many objects can be created. Objects can be created from a class. So class is a data type that you have to create of your own. It is not present in Python. You have to create a class of your own, and once the class is created, you can create any number of objects from the same. For example, if I'll talk about the C++, as you have read C++, I am saying about, I'm giving example of the C++. In C++, you have some data type already defined: integer, character, float, double, void. So as these data types are there, you can create variables: integer a, character x. So x is a variable of character type. But if I write student x, will it accept or give you the error? Because there is no student class is present. There is no student data type is present. So this will give you an error. So what we will do? I want to create a data type of my own. So therefore, I will go for defining a class. So I will define a class student. I'll create some variables and functions and all those. Then I will create an object of that class, and I can create any number of objects from that class. Exactly in the same way, here also you will create a class. Once a class is created, you can create any number of objects from that class. Correct? So what is an object? Anybody who can say what is an object is? What is an object is? Anyone who can say what is an object? Object is the object has three things: identity, property, and behavior. Identity, property, and behavior. A object must have a unique name, that is the identity. Every object has different names, unique names, that is the identity. Property: a class, a object must have some variables inside it, which inside the object for which we store some values. So that variables that you declare are the property. And what are the behaviors? The functions or methods that you define inside the class. Those are the behaviors. So we work with actually objects during the runtime. So this is the runtime entity. Object is a runtime entity. We work with objects while working, while doing writing a program or executing a program. Correct? So, and when we say a class to be object-oriented programming, we say C is a procedural language, but we say C++ is object-oriented language, or Python is object-oriented language. When we'll say a language to be object-oriented, if it satisfies some of the concepts of object-oriented programming. If it satisfies the concepts of object-oriented programming, like data class, object, data abstraction, data encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, dynamic binding, aggregations. If these properties are message passing, if these properties are being is there in the particular language, is supported by that language, then we say that language is an object-oriented programming language. And Python is completely object-oriented programming language. So everything that you suppose we write hello dot for what it does, it
Excuse me,
changes
sir.
to
Sir, it's not
uppercase.
audible, sir.
A string object.
Sir,
Sir, you're
sir,
not
it's not
audible.
audible, sir.
Oh, not audible. Okay. What? Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now audible.
Okay. So everything in Python is really an object, right? For example, if I write hello.upper, so hello is a string object. Hello will be considered as a string object on which upper method is being applied. Upper is a method of that string object. List3.append. So list3 is nothing but a list object, and to which append we are calling the append method. Dictionary2, dictionary object on which we are applying the keys method. So everything that we are doing in Python, we are actually using the objects. But here you can see these list, dictionary, the strings, these are already present in Python. This thing, the way we have written, it is the way we have written, it is similar like it's to C++ methods or not. In C++ also we write object dot function name, object dot function. So these looks like Java or C++ methods. Java or C++. What is the class here? See, string that you have created is whenever you are creating a string, automatically the object of that, actually you are creating the object of the string class. When you are creating list3, the list3 is a object of the list class. Are you getting me? List3 is a object of which class? Of the list class. So we are using the object dot function. We are not writing over here class. Class can also be used, but here we are using the object. Okay. So new object classes can easily be defined in addition to these built-in data types. So it says that these are already there. Dictionary, list, tuple, strings, these are already there. We can also have we can also create a class of our own data type also we can create. So in fact, programming in Python is typically done in an object-oriented fashion. Everything that you do in the form of objects in Python actually. So a class is a special data type which defines how to build a certain kind of objects. Do remember what it says, which defines how to build a certain kind of objects. So I will have to define that if I say a class have these properties or these behavior, then whatever the object I will create for that class must have the same property and same behavior. So property you can think as the variables, and the behavior you can think as the methods. So if a class has certain variables and methods you have defined, so any of the object you are creating for that class must have same variables and methods. The class also stores some data items that are shared by all the instances of the class. Sometimes what we have, we put some variables inside the class which may be shared by all the instances of the class. Can anyone give example of C++ programming where this kind of variable, this kind of data item we can store? Anybody who can give an example of some data items that are shared by all the instances of the class?
Static data members.
Yes, very good. Yes, static data members are shared by all the objects of the same class, correct? So instances are objects that are created which follow the definition given inside the class. So instances, nothing but these are the objects. If I say instance, that means it is an object of that class. And those are being created that must follow the definition given inside of the class. So whatever we have there in the class, whatever the variables we have declared or whatever the functions we have defined in the class, the same can only be used by the objects. So Python doesn't use separate class.
So kindly explain the instance again, sir. Not getting that.
Instance is same as the objects are also known as the instances. The objects are also known as instances. Suppose I have a student class. I want to create x1, x2, x3. So x1, x2, x3, if they are the objects of the same thing, also we use in structure while defining the structure in C++. We create instances of the structure. So actually those instances are nothing but those are actually objects. So you can think as instances are synonyms of objects. So it's same as objects are also known as instances. Objects are also known as instances. So object has three things I already told. Object has three things. What are those? Identity, property, and behavior. Identity means it must be uniquely identifiable. Property means the data members that you define inside the class. Behavior is the methods that you define inside the class. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. So can you give one example?
Okay. Python doesn't use a separate class interface definition as in defining. Hello. The program. See, I'll show you the program and everything. I'll show you the program by executing it. Just here only the concepts I am declaring that what are these instances are. I'll give the example, not to worry. I'll give the example that how to create a class and how to create the objects of that class. Okay. But for example, if I have created a student class and the name of the different students are the different objects that you have created. So Python doesn't use separate class interface definition as in some languages. There is an interface that is not being used over here. You just define the class, then use it, right? So how you do? Define a method in a class by including function definition within the scope of the class block. So what you will do? You will declare a class. I will tell you that how to syntax. I am not told till now. I'll tell you what is inside the class. Inside a class, you will have some methods. So methods must be included inside the class. Like in C++, we say member functions. Here, these are the methods inside the class. In C++, we say member functions and data members. The variables belonging to a class are called data members, and the functions for a class are called the member functions, right? So similarly, define method by including function definition within the scope of the class. Unlike C++, you have inline function. If you have loop and other things, you cannot define inside the class. Those are not there. You can define the class functions inside the class itself. So there must be a special first argument, self, in all of the method definition, which gets bound to the calling instance. So it says that whatever the methods you define, every method must have a self argument. We'll discuss in detail that what are these self argument is. For the time being, you remember all method definitions. All methods that you will define inside a class should have at least one argument that is self, right? And there is usually a special method called init in most classes. In most of the classes, we will have a method called INIT. The INIT must be preceded and succeeded with 2 underscore symbol. That means underscore underscore INIT underscore underscore. So this method has to be there. So you do not confuse now. We'll talk about later. Well, now on the subsequent slides, I will tell you what is this self, what is this INIT, and where actually we are going to use this. For example, I have a class student. Class student. This is class is the keyword. Class is the keyword. Student is the my class name. This is the keyword. This is the class name. Is followed by a colon. This says that my class definition starts from here, right? I have written something inside these triple quotes. So this will be used when you go for giving the, when you try to print the document string. What is this class used for, why it is there, what are the functions you have defined. So for those only, this is a document string. The document string we have read in modules. While defining the modules, I have already told you. So you may have some lines of that you may write why this class is being used. This is optional actually. So we have class student. Inside the student class, we have 2 different methods. 2 methods we have defined over here. You may have a number of what? You may have a number of methods defined inside a class. Here we have 2 methods we have defined. We have defined 2 methods. What is that? The first method is INIT method. It is, I said, INIT usually being defined inside a class. So I have an INIT method, 2 underscore symbol and 2 underscore symbol over here. And what it takes as parameter? Self NA. So INIT is the function name which takes actually these 3 parameters followed by a colon means I am going to define this INIT method. The INIT method here actually takes 2 parameters N and A. N and A. Self is inbuilt. Self has to be given. Self is a parameter which has to be given with each of the methods. With each of the methods. Correct? So the moment I write self dot full name equals to N. What is this full name? Full name is a data member. Self dot age. So age is a data member. What is N and A? N and A are being the parameters that are being passed. N is a parameter, A is a parameter. So full name equals to N, age equals to A. So the data members are initialized by taking value from the parameters. Right? So this INIT works here as a constructor. This INIT works here as a constructor. I hope you must have remembered the constructor.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So what is a constructor? What is a constructor? Anybody? Constructor is a special type of member function having the same name as the class name and gets invoked automatically whenever the object of that class is created. That is the definition in C++. That is the definition in C++. But here in Python, it is not like that. It doesn't it doesn't have the same name as the class name and there's nothing. Here, the other properties are same. When the object is created, it is called, this is true. This is used for initializing the object, this is true. But this doesn't have the same name as the class. Many of the restrictions that are there in C++, it is not over here in Python. So what we have, you can see over here, I have this full name and age, I have not declared anywhere. The variables have not declared. I am writing self dot full name. This says that the full name belongs to this class. Age belongs to this class. So no need to define this full name and age earlier. Directly I can define and assign the values. So this is dynamic initialization. Correct? So INIT works as a constructor. INIT function works as a constructor. Similarly, I have defined another class, another method, getAge. GetAge, I am not passing an argument, but as I said, each method should have at least one argument self. So therefore, I am passing the self over here. Now you might be asking that why this self is over here? Why this self is over here? If you could have remembered this pointer in C++. Anybody who knows, who have remembered this pointer?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this, what is the use of this pointer? This pointer,
So pointing to the current object.
yes, always point to the current object. Whenever you are calling a method, the address of the currently invoking object is passed as an implicit argument. Correct? The address of the currently invoking object is passed as an implicit argument to the function. Implicitly means automatically it is being passed. And who takes, as it is the address, who will take that? One pointer must take it. And that pointer was this pointer in the C++. Here it says that is your self. Self represents the currently invoking object. Self represents the currently invoking object. The working of this pointer and self is almost same. So this represents what? The currently invoking object. Is it understood? Anybody having doubt on this slide? On this slide, any doubt? We will go for writing the program. Don't worry. For if you have understood this INIT and self, we'll go for creating and deleting instance. How to create objects and how to delete. Yes.
Sir, instead of self, can we write something else, or it is every time we have to write the self only?
A self only, because self is the keyword that is being used, which will hold the address of the currently invoking object. So self is a keyword at you. You have to write self only.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So there is no new keyword as in Java. In Java, you use new, even if in C++ also new is used for dynamic memory allocation, and so those are not there in Python. Just use the class name with parenthesis notation and assign the result to a variable. The underscore INIT underscore serves as a constructor for the class. So it will act as it acts as a constructor. Usually does some initialization work. So what is used for? To initialize the data members. If you want to initialize the data members, the INIT function can be used for the same. I may store some values inside that. I may not pass some argument. I may not pass any argument. I will directly write self dot full name is equal to some name, age equals to 50. That I can write. So the arguments passed to the class name are given to its INIT method. So whenever an object is created and you are passing some arguments, automatically the INIT method is invoked and those arguments are given it to the INIT method. Correct? So once the object is created, automatically INIT method is invoked. So INIT method can be used for initialization of the data members. So the INIT method for student is passed. Suppose passed these two values Bob and 21, and the new class instance is bound to B. So look over here, how the object is created. This is the way the class is, I have defined the class. This is the way the class is defined, correct? I want to create an object of that class. What I'll write? Object is B. B equals to student. Student is what? Student is the class. Student, because this takes two parameters over here. Once the object is created, the automatically this INIT gets called. The Bob is assigned to full name and the age 25 is assigned to this.
Cannot get it. Once again.
21 is assigned to that age. Let us. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
This is the class student, and here I define, suppose define INIT. The first parameter must be self. Suppose roll number, name, mark. I want to have this, and I have three data members inside the class. These are parameters. Do remember, R, N, and M are parameters, but I must have some data members inside the class. Suppose self dot roll number equals to R. Self dot name equals to N, and self dot mark equals to M. What it does, whenever a object will be created for student class, automatically INIT will be called. As INIT will be called, it will ask for three parameters. So those three parameters must be passed at the time of creation of the object. So this is one. Another function, suppose defined display. And the function must take the self as argument. So I'll write print roll equals to self dot roll, right? Print name self dot name. Correct. So I have a class with two methods, right? I may define some other methods. So let us try with these two. I will create an object, suppose S1. S1 equals to my class. What is my class name? Student. Correct. It takes which, how many parameters? Three parameters: roll number, name, and mark. Are you getting me? roll number, name and mark. I may create a number of objects. Student right? So a number of objects can be created for the same. The way you create in C++, here also it can also be created. A number of, once the class is defined, you can create any number of objects for the same. Correct? Now 3 objects are created. I want to invoke the display function. So S1 dot display, S2 dot display, S3 dot display. So I am not invoking the init method implicitly. I am not invoking the init method. It is being invoked. It will be invoked implicitly. We'll see that what it gives. Look into the screen and try. This is the simplest method, simplest way of defining the class. Just look into the code and output and tell me if you have any doubt. This is the simplest way. Just look into the card as automatically being passed to the
Sir,
methods. If you are writing
Sir.
set s,
sir, actually in the C++ concept, we use this pointer as you are using self here, and that actually acts like when we add two operator like A1 equal to A2 plus A3, like there we add, there we do some operation in the operators, then only we use the self this pointer to point that object. But here you are, if we don't use the self, is it will be work or give some error?
error, it will give you error. Let me show you over here. Suppose I do not give this self. See,
Sir, here you are just adding self dot roll number and self dot name. If we remove the self from everywhere,
yes, remove. But see, how it will know this? This is if I remove, then how it will know that it is a data member? How it will know that this is a data member? I just show you over here. How it will know that it is a data member? It will be just like a. It is not a data member. It will try to see again. Are you getting me? The way, the
Yes,
time
sir, yes,
you
sir.
create an object, it is being called.
yes, sir.
First, let me explain you once again. Actually, what is the problem over here? What is the screen? See, in C++, try to understand what is there in C++. Where this pointer you are using, this pointer actually you are using when you go for operator overloading, when you go for returning an object from the class, when you returning from the one object you want to
Yes, sir.
return, then at that time you use this pointer.
Yes.
You could have remembered this or not,
Okay, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And in other places, do you pass this pointer in other places? Suppose I have student class s dot get data. Do you pass this pointer at that time? So this is the way you write in C++ or not? S dot get data.
Yes, sir.
Do you pass this pointer?
No.
No, here in C++. The moment you do you
Yes, sir, yes,
pass
sir.
this over here? This is implicitly being passed. This is automatically being passed over here. But here it says
Yes, sir.
that automatically the pointer this is not written over here. You have to write that self. You have to write the self. So automatically it will not take. You just have to write a self over here. Self says that this is belongs to this object's, this is the currently object invoking object's values.
Okay, sir.
So that means these are data members. It means that these are the data members for the object we are invoking. These are the data members. Just by writing this indicates that these are the data members. Is it understood?
Yes, sir.
You may have some other functions to update or something that you can write def update, then self and you want to update the mark. So self dot update. So I go for s1 dot update. Go for display of all these things. What it should display? So it will display this value, then it will update by 30 marks, and it should display the updated mark. $900, $800. So now it's is a reference to
Sir,
the
the screen
current
is not visible.
instance of the class. Screen not visible. Is it visible? Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
So the first argument of every method is a reference to the current instance of the class. Current instance of the class. First argument. One more thing. The argument must be the first argument. So by convention, we name this as a self. In INIT, self refers to the object currently being created. So in other class methods, it refers to the instance whose method was called. So simply we can remember self represents the currently invoking object, and it must be the first parameter of the methods that are being defined inside the class. This is similar to the keyword this in Java or C++. So Python uses self more often than Java uses this. So Java or C++ uses this pointer very rarely. But in Python, every method has self, so that you have to use. Although Java doesn't use it, but it is implicitly being passed. This is implicitly passed in Java or C++. But here you have to write self. Although you must specify self explicitly when defining the method, you don't include it when calling the method. Do remember, although we have used the self while defining, but while calling we are not using. While calling we are not using. Look over here. We have used self while defining. But while calling, I am just passing 3 parameters. I am not passing 4 parameters over here. I have written 4 parameters, but while calling, I just have to pass 3 parameters. Correct? So Python passes it for you automatically. So this is being passed automatically to the function. So while calling, I may not have to I may not have to define the define it. I may not have to pass the self over here. I may not have to pass the self. Is it understood? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.